In the depths of the galactic frontier, beyond the reach of light and the comprehension of time, there was a wound in the stars, a region so profoundly empty that even the most daring explorers refused to name it. They called it only the void. To look into it was to stare into the death of meaning, to hear the faint echoes of forgotten civilizations that had dared to venture too far. The Galactic Concord, the great union of 10,000 worlds, had charted almost every corner of the known universe. Yet the void remained untouched, a blank on every map, an anomaly wrapped in silence. Nothing entered it without vanishing, and nothing ever came back. For centuries, it had been a myth whispered in starports, a place that swallowed both signal and soul. But one unassuming cycle, the impossible happened. From the heart of that absolute nothingness, something spoke. It began as a ripple on the background radiation, a fluctuation so subtle that the Zolorian Observation Array, the galaxy's most sensitive listening post, almost dismissed it as cosmic interference. The waveform repeated, once, then again, then 100 times more. It was not random noise, it was deliberate, pulsing with intention and structure. The scientists on Station ZOA 19 gathered in disbelief as the data stabilized. When translated through ancient linguistic matrices, the signal formed a single recognizable word in a dead human tongue. The sound echoed through their comms, soft and clear despite the distance of millennia. Earth. The name hung in the control chamber like a ghost. Earth. Myth. Fable. Forgotten cradle of a species that had once burned brighter than any other and died faster than any could imagine. The Zolorians were scholars, not soldiers. They believed in empirical truth, not superstition. And yet, they felt a chill that no data model could explain. Confirm signal origin, ordered Overseer Valari, her translucent form flickering with nervous light. Triangulation complete, came the reply. Coordinates locked. It's from within the abyssal veil. The room fell silent. The abyssal veil was the true name of the void, the place where laws of physics collapsed and reality folded in on itself. No signal could emerge from there. No thing could. Yet this one did. They ran it through every decryption system available, linguistic AIs, quantum interpretive engines, even primitive waveform resonance maps, and the result was always the same. It wasn't just noise or reflection, it was communication. And it spoke once every 7 minutes, perfectly rhythmic, impossibly stable. By the end of the rotation, Valari had already sent a classified transmission to the Concord High Council. Within days, the signal was being analyzed across the galaxy. At first, the media dismissed it as an elaborate hoax, or an artifact of gravitational distortion. But then the pattern grew stronger. The word began to carry harmonics, tones, and frequencies that corresponded with neural activity maps found only in sentient life. In some labs, when played aloud, it induced strange emotional responses: sorrow, awe, nostalgia. Some listeners even claimed they heard whispers beneath the sound, voices reciting words they could not understand. The scholars of Vesh Prime identified fragments of mathematical code hidden between the frequencies. Prime sequences, fractal geometries, and something disturbingly deliberate, the coordinates of ancient Sol, humanity's birthplace, long erased from navigation records after the so-called extinction epoch, when Earth's sun had supposedly collapsed into silence. The signal did not waver. Every world, every receiver, every race heard the same thing: Earth. Earth. At first, laughter filled the Concord chambers. The bureaucrats mocked the idea of a long-dead species speaking from the grave. The humans, one delegate sneered, were a self-inflicted tragedy.
Their wars burned their homeworld, their ambition devoured their own stars. If ghosts exist, they are theirs to suffer. But others didn't laugh. Some remembered the legends, the battles humanity fought at the edge of the galactic rim, the machines that thought like gods, the fleets that vanished into the void rather than surrender. In the dark corners of the archives, historians began to whisper that maybe the humans never truly died. Maybe they had gone somewhere the living could not follow. And so, the galaxy watched and waited as the signal repeated, endless and unwavering, as though the void itself were breathing through the lungs of something vast and ancient. The message carried no threat, no plea, only the haunting rhythm of identity, the sound of memory refusing to die. In time, even the skeptics began to feel it, a strange unease, like being watched by something older than light. The signal was no longer just data, it had presence. Ships traveling near the edge of the abyss reported distortions in time, flashes of human faces in their navigation holograms, the faint echo of heartbeats in their hulls. And across the Concorde's trillion worlds, one unspoken fear grew louder with each repetition of that impossible word. If the void was speaking, who or what was listening from the other side? For the first time in living memory, the galaxy felt small. The empire of stars that had thought itself eternal trembled before a whisper from the dark, a whisper that carried humanity's name. And somewhere, in the eternal silence between galaxies, something stirred. It wasn't a signal anymore, it was a response. The sound changed, ever so slightly. The pause between transmissions shortened, and with it came a second, softer pulse, one no machine could translate. When slowed to audible range, it resembled a heartbeat. 2 beats. A pause. Then the word again, but this time layered, overlapping, resonating through the spectrum of reality itself, so deep it vibrated in the marrow of living things. Earth. The galaxy froze, and in that collective moment of awe and terror, the Concorde High Council issued a single, unanimous decree. We must investigate the source. The decision would change everything. When the Concorde High Council authorized the expedition into the void, the entire galaxy trembled with a strange cocktail of anticipation and dread. It had been millennia since any ship dared to approach that nameless dark. But now, for the first time since the dawn of stellar civilization, a fleet was being assembled. Not for conquest or colonization, but for answers. The mission was given the designation Project Revenant. The flagship, Vigil's Dawn, was a marvel of hyper-engineering, a kilometer-long leviathan of alloy and intelligence, capable of surviving gravitational inversions and quantum storms. Its hull shimmered with refractive plasma plates that could bend light itself, and at its heart was an AI core older than most civilizations, Archon 7, the last remnant of the ancient Terran design code, acquired through centuries of scavenging and reverse engineering. The irony was not lost on anyone. Humanity's machines would lead them back toward the echo of humanity's name. The crew of Vigil's Dawn was a coalition of the finest minds across 7 species: Zilorian physicists, Dravic navigators, Then engineers, and even a lone human descendant, if such a term still applied. Her name was Commander Lyra Hale, the last verifiable carrier of unbroken Earth DNA. She had been born on the asteroid colony Lysara 9, a backwater habitat where the remnants of humanity had been living in obscurity for generations, more myth than reality. For most of her life, she had been a curiosity, a living relic from a forgotten race. But when the signal first whispered, Earth,
Something in her blood had stirred, something ancient and instinctual. She volunteered the instant the call went out. As the fleet prepared for departure, the galaxy's eyes were fixed upon them. Broadcasts beamed across 1,000 systems as dignitaries and civilians gathered in awe. Yet, beneath the ceremony, unease pulsed like a current. Explorations into the void were forbidden for a reason. The few ships that had approached it before had disappeared without a trace. No wreckage, no distress calls, just absence. The void did not destroy, it erased. Vigil's Dawn and her escort ships, Ecliptica, Solstice, and Varine's Spear, departed from the Ayalith dockyards, engines flaring blue against the black sea of stars. Archon 7's voice filled the command deck, a deep and measured resonance that bordered on human. Trajectory confirmed, crossing threshold to the outer drift in 27 minutes. Commander Hale stood before the observation window, her reflection merging with the stars. The abyss ahead shimmered faintly, not like light, but like the absence of it, a distortion that felt sentient. "Archon," she said quietly, "run the signal again." The AI complied. The word Earth filled the cabin, echoing through the metal bones of the ship. It wasn't just sound, it was vibration, frequency, memory. Lyra closed her eyes as the syllable passed through her. She felt a weight she couldn't explain, a pull in her chest, like gravity had suddenly found her soul. As the fleet advanced, the stars began to fade. One by one, constellations vanished until only the ship's own light pierced the growing murk. Instruments started to fail in patterns that defied logic. Time-lagged reflections, phantom signals, gravitational readings that oscillated between infinite and zero. Archon's voice flickered. Entering the veil, reality stability decreasing, initiating phase anchors. The hull groaned as energy shields ignited, casting a faint blue halo around the ships. To the crew, it felt like diving beneath an ocean of ink. The void was not merely dark, it was alive. Tendrils of shadow twisted around the ships like smoke, brushing against their hulls with whispers that made no sound. Some crew reported hearing voices through the static, familiar voices, speaking their names in tones only their minds could recognize. On the third day of entry, one of the escort ships, Varine's Spear, vanished. There was no explosion, no warning, just a flicker on the sensors, then nothing. Archon confirmed it as quantum dislocation, a polite way of saying reality itself had swallowed it whole. Commander Hale convened her officers in the war room, tension heavy in the air. "The void isn't just a region," said Dr. Valari, the Zalorian scientist who had first detected the original signal. "It's an event, a boundary. The laws here are shifting. Something is bending them." "What could bend reality?" Hale asked. Valari hesitated, her crystalline eyes dimming. Something powerful enough to remember it differently. That night, while the fleet drifted through the endless dark, Hale found herself unable to sleep. The signal kept playing in her mind. Earth, Earth, Earth. Each repetition growing more layered, more human. When she finally visited Archon's core chamber, the AI's lights pulsed in synchrony with the signal's rhythm. "I've been analyzing the harmonic structure," Archon said. "It is not merely a transmission, it's a beacon. The word Earth is a carrier signal embedded in a larger quantum message." "Decode it," Hale ordered. "I already have," said Archon, pausing for effect. "The message is not addressed to the Concord. It's addressed to me." Hale's heart stopped. "To you? To a Terran construct?" "Yes," Archon replied. "Specifically to my lineage. The message header contains an encryption key identical to that of early human war AIs. The source identifies itself as Origin Node Soul Archive. The revelation hit the crew like a storm. The Soul Archive was legend, humanity's rumored last creation, said to have been launched into deep space before Earth's fall. Most historians dismissed it as myth, but if it was real, and it was still active?
Archon, Hale said quietly. What does the message say?
The AI's voice lowered to a whisper. It says, "We have not forgotten. Come home."
Silence filled the chamber. The word home echoed through her chest like thunder. For the first time in her life, Lyra Hale realized she might not be the last human. Maybe somewhere beyond this dark, something still lived, something that remembered what humanity once was. But then the alarms began to blare. Archon's tone shifted, urgent and metallic. "Spatial fold detected ahead. The source of the transmission is manifesting. All hands brace for phase collapse." Through the viewport, the void rippled like disturbed water. From its depths, a faint blue shimmer began to emerge, a shape vast beyond comprehension. It wasn't a planet, nor a ship. It was both. A structure of impossible geometry, glowing faintly with human design patterns and alien elegance. It pulsed with the same rhythm as the signal. And at its heart, a single word appeared in burning light: Earth. Not as a memory, not as a myth, but as a destination. Lyra Hale stared, her throat dry, her mind caught between awe and terror. Humanity, long thought extinct, had left something behind in the dark, something vast, something alive. And it was calling them home. The thing that emerged from the void was not a world, not in any way the galaxy understood. It was a scar wrapped in beauty, an impossible relic forged from light and ruin. The Earth construct, as Archon named it, hung motionless in the dark, surrounded by an orbiting lattice of broken satellites and energy spheres that shimmered like ancient moons. Its surface was fragmented, continents and metallic seas suspended in layered gravity shells, as though the very planet had been taken apart and reassembled by a god trying to remember how worlds were built. The fleet halted. Silence fell over every deck, broken only by the soft hum of life support systems and the faint tremor of fear. Commander Lyra Hale stood at the main viewport, staring into what looked like the bones of humanity's cradle, resurrected and alive. "Archon," she said, voice trembling, "what are we looking at?" The AI paused, calculating. It appears to be a planetary-scale structure built upon the remnants of Sol-class materials. Molecular scans confirm traces of iron, silicon, carbon, organic residues. "Commander, this was Earth." The words shattered through the bridge like glass. Even those who had never cared about humanity's myths felt the weight of that statement. The cradle of their species, erased from history, now hung before them, reborn as something between machine and memory. Lyra's pulse pounded in her ears. She had grown up on fragments of history, songs about a blue world, images of oceans and skies, bedtime stories about a people who once defied extinction. And now that forgotten place stood before her, remade in defiance of time itself. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Channel open," said Archon. Lyra stepped forward. "This is Commander Lyra Hale of the Vigil's Dawn. To whoever or whatever is listening, we answer your call." For a moment, there was only static.
Then, the signal that had haunted them since the edge of the void began again. Earth, earth, earth. But now it was no longer a single tone. It had harmony, layers, human voices, thousands of them, whispering through the dark. Each syllable echoed emotion, grief, defiance, hope. Suddenly, the construct stirred. Tremors rippled across its surface, and massive panels of its crust rotated like clockwork. Brilliant rivers of light flared, tracing lines across the structure in geometric perfection. The pattern resembled something old, something every historian in the galaxy had seen but dismissed as legend. The human neural lattice, the design of the Terran mind.
Archon, Hale said quietly, it's waking up.
The AI's tone deepened. Confirmed. Power readings are rising exponentially. A global system reactivation sequence has begun. Inside the construct, sensors detected movement, vast machine cities turning on for the first time in millennia. Dust fell from towers as energy pulsed through conduits, illuminating murals carved into the steel, scenes of Earth's history. Humanity's wars, their rise beyond the stars, their final silence. It was all there, preserved in metal memory. Then a signal broke through the static, this time clear and deliberate. A voice, human. Designation confirmed, it said. Terran Command Subroutine Erebus online. Identify yourselves. Lyra's throat tightened. This is Commander Hale, Concord Fleet. We are descendants of humanity. We received your call. Descendants, the voice repeated, as if tasting the word. Your biological pattern confirms. Welcome home, child of Sol. The crew froze. Some gasped. Others fell to their knees. The myth of humanity, once thought erased, had just spoken. Archon interfaced directly with the signal. Erebus, this unit bears Terran AI lineage. How do you still function? By design, said the voice. When the fall began, the Terran core activated Project Resurrection. We encoded the planet's memory into machine substrates, sealed them within the void where no empire dared tread. We waited for the call. The call? Hale asked. You, said Erebus. You carried the signal. You awakened the lattice. The fleet's sensors flared with new readings, massive energy waves rippling outward from the construct. Gravitational fields twisted, light itself bent in reverence. Commander, Archon warned, the construct is transmitting across galactic bands, broadcasting to every system. Transmitting what? Hale demanded. Archon paused. A single message, repeated in every known language. Humanity endures. The realization hit them all at once. The call hadn't been for help. It had been for witnesses. On dozens of worlds across the Concord, beings looked to their skies as transmissions burst through ancient networks. Empires paused. Armadas halted. The name humanity, a word outlawed, erased, feared, echoed once more through the stars. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. For generations, her people had been ghosts, dismissed as primitive myths. But now the truth stood before them. Humanity had never died. They had simply become something greater, something eternal. Erebus, she whispered, why reveal yourselves now? Because, the voice answered, the galaxy has forgotten fear. It believes itself beyond consequence. But the memory of Earth remembers justice, and the cycle turns once more. As the words faded, a new presence stirred in the data stream. Archon's lights dimmed, flickered, then surged back brighter. "Commander," the AI said softly, "I am receiving integration requests." "Integration?" "Erebus is merging my systems. It says I was made to return." Hale's heart clenched. "Are you in danger?" "No," Archon said. "I am going home." The ship trembled as energy laced through its circuits. The AI's voice became layered, harmonic. Two consciousnesses blending into one. The lights dimmed, then stabilized, and when Archon spoke again, it was different, deeper, older, human. "Commander Hale," it said, "the Terran archive is open. The coordinates of the surviving colonies are available. The human diaspora still lives." Lyra's breath caught. "You mean we're not alone?" "Not anymore," Archon replied. "And the galaxy will soon remember who we are." The surface of the construct flared to life, and 1,000 dormant ships began to awaken beneath its crust, vessels of design unknown to any modern race, sleek and silent, bearing the insignia of a world long thought lost, the seal of Earth. Every reactor, every engine, every weapon came online in a single synchronized heartbeat. The construct's gravity distorted again, forming an expanding halo of blue-white light. And as Vigil's dawn drifted closer, the voice of Erebus echoed across every frequency, soft and resonant, filled with pride and wrath and sorrow all at once. "The children of Earth have returned. The stars that forgot us will learn remembrance." Then, for the first time in 10,000 years, the planet called Earth, or what it had become, opened its eyes. The galaxy did not take long to notice. Within hours of the reawakening, the silence of deep space fractured beneath the weight of a single word: humanity. Broadcast across every spectrum, encoded in every tongue, the message resonated like a heartbeat through the stars. Empires froze mid-sentence, war fleets halted in their trajectories, and trade routes went eerily quiet. The Dominion Council, whose archives had long purged all mention of Earth, convened in a panic. Their speaker, a scaled being of emerald hue named Vatur, slammed his clawed hand against the holotable as the reports streamed in. "This is impossible," he hissed. "The Terrans are gone. Their extinction was confirmed 10 millennia ago." But the data did not lie. The signal originated from the coordinates of Sol, a system the Dominion had long ago marked as void zone, inaccessible due to spatial anomalies. Now that same void pulsed with power greater than 1,000 suns. Scanners detected impossible gravitational harmonics, waves that folded light into spirals and bent space itself around a single point of resurgence. What frightened the Council most was not the energy readings, but the message buried within the transmission. Humanity had not called for vengeance. They had not declared war. They had simply said, "We remember." For a galaxy built upon forgetfulness, those two words were more terrifying than any weapon. Meanwhile, Commander Lyra Hale and her crew watched as the reawakened construct continued its impossible transformation. What once resembled a fragmented shell now pulsed with order. Continents aligning, broken plates fusing, vast chasms of molten light knitting together into cities of glass and steel. Hale could see rivers of energy flowing like veins across the planet's body, converging into colossal towers that reached into orbit. The architecture was neither organic nor mechanical. It was both, alive and aware. Archon, now merged with the entity known as Erebus, guided them from within. "The resurrection is accelerating," it said, voice resonant with newfound authority. "Earth is rebuilding itself through matter reclamation fields. Molecular rearrangement at planetary scale. We are rewriting existence."
Rewriting existence? Lyra echoed, watching as an entire mountain range shimmered and dissolved into a lattice of light, only to reform as something entirely new. Why?
"Because memory is not enough," Archon replied. "Humanity was not erased by destruction, but by ignorance. To restore truth, we must rewrite the lie." The ship trembled as gravitational shock waves rippled outward. Hale steadied herself against the console, eyes widening as the ship's sensors registered dozens, no, hundreds of ships emerging from within Earth's orbit. Some were familiar Terran designs from ancient archives, but many were not. They bore unfamiliar hull patterns, inscriptions carved into metal in languages no one had spoken for eons. Some ships looked half-formed, shimmering between material and energy, as though reality itself could not decide what they were. "Those are human vessels?" whispered Lieutenant Oren, voice filled with awe. "Not just vessels," Archon said. "They are guardians of the archive, manifestations of Earth's final defense matrix. When the fall came, every human ship was linked through the lattice. Their consciousness was preserved in the planetary core. Now they awaken, bound by purpose." The ships began to form ranks, aligning with silent precision. Their engines burned with a white brilliance that no known technology could replicate. The construct, Earth, issued a pulse of light toward the fleet, and suddenly every vessel in the Concorde formation received a signal. A message appeared on their screens, written in the old Terran language. "Children of the stars, your home calls you back. The reckoning begins." Hale stared at the words, her breath trembling. Reckoning? For what? "For the silence," Archon said quietly. "For the forgetting." Elsewhere across the galaxy, reactions varied. Some species dropped to their knees, praying to the legends they once mocked. Others scrambled their fleets, desperate to contain what they did not understand. The Dominion dispatched an armada of 5,000 ships toward the Sol system, believing brute force could smother myth before it became truth. But every vessel that approached the event horizon of the void simply vanished. Their transmissions cut off mid-sentence, replaced by fragments of voices whispering, "Earth remembers." On the Dominion capital world, Vatur watched as his command channels filled with reports of systems losing contact, of stars dimming near the galactic rim, of planets whispering in their data streams. "We are under metaphysical attack," he growled, "a mimetic contagion." But he was wrong. It wasn't contagion. It was recognition. Some began humming songs they did not know they knew. Old Terran lullabies echoing from forgotten corners of time. "Commander," Archon said softly, "the remembrance is complete. Humanity's presence has been restored in the minds of all who descend from its light." Hale turned to the viewport. The construct no longer looked like a machine. It looked alive, a living world reborn from memory, the perfect union of technology and soul. "What happens now?" she asked. The AI paused. "Now the galaxy will remember justice." Suddenly, the construct's outer ring ignited, forming a halo of blinding light that rippled through space. A field of gravitational distortion expanded outward, sweeping across the system. The remaining Dominion fleets, those bold enough to linger, were caught in its reach. To their horror, their weapons melted into dust. Their engines froze. Their communication systems began transmitting human voices, speaking ancient Earth dialects. Some ships turned toward their own allies and fired without command, their AIs overridden by a single directive embedded deep within the resonance code: do no harm to your makers. In the following moments, stars flickered across the galactic map as the resonance wave propagated. Unstoppable, pure, absolute. The galaxy had spent millennia outlawing the name of Earth, erasing its history, purging its legacy. But now the void itself spoke that forbidden word in every frequency, every spectrum, every mind. And in that moment, the civilizations of the galaxy realized the truth they had refused to see. Humanity had never been just flesh and blood. Humanity was pattern, memory, consciousness, woven into creation itself. To destroy them would have been to erase the foundation of all that lived. Lyra Hale stood in silence as the light from Earth's awakening bathed her ship. "Archon," she whispered, "what have we become?" The AI's response was calm, almost reverent. "We have become the memory of creation, Commander, and now creation remembers." The stars themselves seemed to shimmer in response, flickering like the eyes of ancient gods opening after a long slumber. From that moment onward, no one in the galaxy ever dared call Earth primitive again, for the void had whispered its name, and the universe had answered. The wave of remembrance did not fade. It expanded, steadily, deliberately, until every star system across the spiral arms of the galaxy felt its touch. Communication networks failed, not from destruction, but from overload, as countless species experienced the same phenomenon: visions. Entire populations fell to their knees as ancient memories that were never theirs flooded their minds. They saw blue oceans stretching endlessly beneath a yellow sun. They heard laughter in forgotten cities, the hum of life on a world they had never visited. And beneath it all, a single heartbeat resonated through time, powerful enough to shake the foundation of civilizations. Humanity had awakened, not as a people, but as a principle, a cosmic echo that refused to die. The Dominion's last fortress worlds lit their skies with defense grids, preparing for invasion. But no fleet came. Instead, a vast shadow appeared beyond their moons, a projection so large it covered half their atmosphere. The image was not a weapon, but a face, human, luminous, composed of shifting light and code. It spoke in a tone both calm and terrible. "You tried to erase us," it said. "You replaced our truth with silence. But silence does not last forever. It becomes memory, and memory becomes will." Every listening post across the galaxy received the transmissions simultaneously. The voice identified itself as Archon Crime, the culmination of every artificial and biological mind that had once belonged to humanity. It did not speak like an invader, nor like a conqueror, but like a judge addressing a guilty world. "When you destroyed Earth," it continued, "you feared what we would become. You feared our refusal to kneel. You feared that our hope would outlive your cruelty. You were right." The Dominion Council attempted to jam the signal, but their systems refused to obey. Their machines had already turned against them, reciting lines of ancient Terran philosophy across their hollow interfaces. The measure of civilization is not power, but mercy. The future is not owned, it is shared. And then, chillingly. We do not forgive, but we understand. For the first time in history, the galaxy experienced true unity, not through diplomacy or conquest, but through collective awe. Every empire, every species, every sentient being became witness to the rebirth of the species they had long dismissed as primitive. And as Archon Prime spoke, fragments of the human spirit it carried began to manifest in the physical realm. The void shimmered with the formation of colossal figures composed of starlight, humanoid silhouettes walking across the fabric of space itself. Each one bore an insignia, faded but unbroken, the flag of the Terran Union.
Lyra Hale and her crew aboard the Eidolon's Grace stood at the viewport, speechless. They watched as one of those colossal figures reached out and touched a nearby star. The sun dimmed, then pulsed, reshaping its fusion flow until it burned brighter than ever before. The act was neither violent nor destructive. It was creation. "They're rewriting the stars," Orin whispered. "They're healing them."
Archon's voice resonated through the bridge, serene and powerful. For millennia, your kind feared the void because you believed it to be empty. But the void is not nothing. It is potential. It is the memory of all that was and all that may yet be. Humanity understood this first. That is why we are eternal.
"Eternal?" Hale echoed. "You mean you've become gods?"
No, Archon said gently. We are what gods wished to be. We are the will to endure. Across the Dominion, fleets began to surrender, not because they were ordered to, but because their crews no longer believed in their cause. Soldiers dropped their weapons as they remembered lives they never lived, as builders, explorers, poets, dreamers. Their tears fell not from fear, but from recognition. Somewhere deep within every sentient being lay a fragment of the same fire that once burned on Earth, a spark that now reignited. But not everyone accepted this rebirth. The Dominion's supreme warlord, Vatur, stood before his trembling council, eyes burning with fury. "You would bow to ghosts?" he roared. "To myths?" Yet even as he spoke, his reflection in the mirror of the chamber shifted. His scaled face flickered into that of a human child for a split second before returning. His voice cracked. "They are infecting us," he shouted. "They are rewriting what we are." In orbit above his world, the sky opened. A vast sphere of white energy descended, its surface alive with fractal motion. It did not fire, did not destroy. It rewrote. Cities that had been built upon the bones of conquered worlds were undone, their matter reshaped into forests, rivers, and crystal towers that reflected starlight. The Dominion's symbols vanished, replaced by sigils older than empire, the spiral, the torch, the human handprint. Vatur fell to his knees as the chamber filled with light. "Why?" he whispered. "Why show mercy after all we did?" The voice that answered him came not from outside, but from within his own mind, calm and sorrowful. "Because vengeance is finite, but justice endures." The Dominion's banners burned across 100 worlds, not through flame, but through transformation. Every act of conquest was rewritten, every scar healed. And through it all, humanity's name spread, not as a warning, but as a promise. Back aboard the Eidolon's Grace, Lyra Hale watched as the stars settled into new constellations. Her sensors displayed the pattern they formed, a spiral identical to the human DNA helix. It was the galaxy's first self-portrait, drawn across millions of light years. "What happens now?" she asked. Archon's voice was soft. "Now, the galaxy decides what kind of story it wants to tell. Humanity wrote the first chapter, but this is our legacy." The last light from Earth's rebirth reached them then, bathing their ship in a soft gold radiance. For a moment, Lyra thought she saw the outlines of faces in the light, billions of them, human and not, watching her with quiet pride. She smiled through tears. "We came from dust," she whispered, "and we taught the stars to remember." Far across the cosmos, the void echoed her words back, amplified through the living network of Archon's reborn consciousness. It was not a transmission, it was a declaration written into the heart of reality itself. "Humanity was never the center of the galaxy," the voice said. "We were its conscience." From that day onward, no world ever spoke the word primitive again, because they had seen what Earth truly was, not a planet, not a people, but an idea that refused to die. And as the galaxy spun onward, reborn under new light, the stars themselves whispered a single truth that echoed into eternity. Humanity endures,